1070 AM on the US 29 corridor and on County Cable Montgomery.
Travel is slow on I-270 in the following locations:
northbound on
Good morning, everyone. We are on, welcome to the County Council. Today is February 3rd, and we're going to start with a proclamation recognizing annual Delta Sigma Theta Sonority Inc. Day by Council members Shebra Evans and Lorianne Sales. Please, all the Deltas come forward. Council members, take it away.
Oh, move over to the right. They say, move over to the, okay. Let's move back a little bit. Sources. Yes, we have some solidarity with our council colleagues. Thank you so much. I'll let you kick it off. I'll start it off. It's been truly an honor and a pleasure to host Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated today at the Montgomery County Council as the official Delta Day. Deltas have been around for quite some time. I'll let my colleague kind of go into more details, but I am also a member of the Divine Nine, so they are my sisters in service. I'm proud to gather with them here today. They are always purposeful. They are always community driven, organized, and I just deeply respect them. And I say thank you to you all for your leadership and your commitment to serve all of our residents here in Montgomery County. And thank you to my sister in service and council member Evans for joining me to host the 4th annual Delta Days at the County Council. We just had a very enlightening breakfast where we heard about their top 3 priorities, focusing on our senior community, ensuring that our seniors are able to age in place, also focusing on the health and wellness and ensuring education is part of the information that we share with our residents, talking about home ownership and tax credits. And last but certainly not least, we are going to be having a data center meeting here in the community at the County Executives Building at 7:00 p.m. So please tune in. It will be live streamed, or you can join us in person to have your voice heard. So thank you so much for sharing your top priorities. I also want to thank the 2 presidents that have joined us here this morning, President Nina Abdul-Wakil of the Montgomery County Alumni Chapter, and President Daphne Page Reeves of the Potomac Valley Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. You may have attended some of the events that this sorority has led across the county, namely the annual World AIDS Day event that happens at the end of the year, the Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service activities, and also the jazz concert or brunch that raises money for scholarships for our deserving and high achieving seniors. So thank you to the Montgomery County Alumni Chapter for their exceptional efforts. You may have also attended other events like the Lobster Bake, which benefits scholarship and public service programs, or the Montgomery County Affordable Housing Conference, the Minerva Entrepreneurship Awards, or the Black Voices and Votes, the Power of Community Initiative, some of the events hosted by the Potomac Valley Alumni Chapter. So my sorors are out and about. They are championing social action, sisterhood, and public service. And I couldn't be more proud to celebrate Black History Month, 113 years of sisterhood and scholarship and social action with this sorority. And we are just grateful for their continued efforts. As we are seeing what's happening across the country, we know that we have to ensure that we don't forget the plights of our ancestors, and we prioritize not erasing history, but making history. And so every day that we show up, we encourage others to vote and be involved in their community. We are living out the goals and the priorities and the mission of our 22 founders. And so now I think we're going to hear from our two presidents, and then we're going to read the proclamation. So we will start with President Nina Abdul-Wakil and then Sora Daphne Page Reeves.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sales. Thank you. Great. They're just too tall. It is my pleasure to be here and to continue the collaboration with the County Council, with the Montgomery County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We were established in the county in 1970, and we have been working for the community ever since. It has been our honor and pleasure to partner with you in so many ways to affect the lives every day of Montgomery County residents. From youth to seniors, we offer services and programs that support their lived experience, to elevate them, to elevate their families, to take them to a new height so that they can be productive, active, and engaged citizens in our county. This work is not light, and we are grateful that the county understands that, hears our priorities, works with us, and does the work. So thank you to the council. Thank you to Council Member Evans and Sales for hosting us today. And this will not be the last. It will be just the fourth Delta Days at the County Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Sora Abdul-Wakil. And now we hear from our another president.
Thank you so much. Wow, my sister president really said it all. Again, my name is Daphne Page Reeves, president of Potomac Valley Alumni Chapter. Thank you so much for having us today. To the council, to Council Member Sales, to Council Member Evans, thank you so much for this proclamation, but for the opportunity to sit down and talk about the priorities within Montgomery County. We and Delta Sigma Theta definitely are about scholarship, service, social action, and our priorities today that we presented definitely accentuate all those that happen in Montgomery County. So not to forego everything that my sister president has said, Potomac Valley Alumni Chapter has worked for 40 years in Montgomery County. We were chartered on April 27, 1985, and we have been working ever since, very hard, advocating for the members of Western Montgomery County. So thank you again for this proclamation, and we look forward to working with you this year, continuing to work with you this year, and to be back next year for the 5th annual Delta Day. Thank you.
So at this time, we will now read the proclamation. Whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was founded on January 13, 1913 by 22 African-American collegiate women studying at Howard University, the founders of the sorority envisioned an organization committed to sisterhood, scholarship, service, and social action. Their first act of public service was participating in the suffrage march of 1913, and
whereas 113 years later, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated has become one of the preeminent service-based sororities with more than 350,000 initiated members and over 1,050 charter chapters worldwide. The theme for the work of the sorority for this biennium is One Delta, One Mission, anchored in legacy, evolving with intention, and
whereas the Montgomery County Alumni and the Potomac Valley Alumni chapters have fulfilled the mission of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated in Montgomery County for well over 50 years, providing an extensive array of public service initiatives through its 5-point programmatic thrust: economic development, educational development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness and involvement, and
whereas members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated are leaders in the community throughout Montgomery County and the state of Maryland. Deltas hold elected offices in state and local government and on the Board of Education. And the first African American United States Senator from Maryland is the Honorable Angela Brooks, also a Delta. Additionally, many members are prominent business leaders, educators, entrepreneurs, and community activists. And
whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is at the forefront of social action across the nation, from launching a nationwide Get Out the Vote campaign, encouraging Americans to turn out on Election Day, to serving as co-plaintiff with the Legal Defense Fund in 2 lawsuits challenging restrictive voting legislation in Texas and Georgia, to condemning the expulsion of the Tennessee lawmakers who were exercising their right to protest, to reaffirming their stance on women's fundamental right to make decisions related to their reproductive health. The sorority continues to confront challenges that face not only African Americans, but all Americans. And
whereas the impact of the sorority is felt every day in Montgomery County through a wide range of service programs such as Delta Academy, Delta Gems and Embody, STEM and reading programs, voter registration, and community conversations with elected officials, MLK Day of Service, and various health and wellness programs, including the annual World AIDS Day Solidarity for Health Equity Breakfast and the Black Maternal Health Day of Service. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is a pillar of service and support in our county, and we look forward to your continued service for years to come.
now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby celebrates the Montgomery County Alumni Chapter and the Potomac Valley Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated on the 4th annual Delta Day at the County Council, and be it further resolved that you have our commitment as partners in your ongoing efforts to improve the quality of life for all residents across Montgomery County. So it's presented on this 3rd day of February in the year 2026, signed by myself, Lori and Councilmember Lori Ann Sales, and President Natalie Fanny Gonzalez. Yeah.
Thank you so much to the Delta Sigma Theta Sonority for coming today. Next, we are going to move forward with a proclamation recognizing Transit Equity Day by the County Council's Transportation and Environment Committee. Those of you who are coming for that proclamation, please move forward. Thank you.
This is the first time Glenn's demurring. I know. Seriously, come on up. A little tired. Come on. Okay. I tell you. If you are here for Transit Equity Day, please come on down. As people are still in transit today. Notably, that's right. That's right. I am pleased to join my colleagues on the Transportation and Environment Committee in recognizing Transit Equity Day, which is a recognition of a civil rights trailblazer from Montgomery, Alabama. And that is Rosa Parks. Back in 1955, heroically, famously, not giving up her seat to make sure that everybody had equal access to public transportation. And all of these years later, we continue fighting and pushing for fair transportation policies, for equal access. And here in Montgomery County, as of June of this year, we have fast, free, and frequent bus service. A continuation of that long struggle to make sure that cost is not a barrier to public transportation. And since buses have become free, ridership has increased 5.4%. And riders have saved about $1,200 a year because of our policy. And here in Montgomery County, we provide so many programs to help residents in need. We provide rental assistance, we provide health insurance, and sometimes we need to help people where they're at, and it's quite literally at the bus stop for so many of our residents. So I'm proud to be here with my colleagues on the Transportation and Environment Committee, and we'll invite them up, and then we'll have representatives from the Department of Transportation share some additional comments. So I'll go to Council Vice President Marilyn Balcom.
Good morning, everyone. So I know that it's been a rough week for all commuters, and I just want to say thank you to our Department of Transportation, Director Conklin, for all the work that everybody's done this week. We're going to take a deeper dive into it this afternoon and talk about lessons learned. But as tough as it's been for commuters, the brunt of this has really fallen to transit riders. And when we look at the obstacles that transit riders often have to go through every day, this week has been a tremendous reminder of how important it is for the county government and the state government to pay attention to making sure that we have safe, reliable, convenient transit for everyone. And this is a good reminder. Today is a great reminder of that. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. Kate Stewart, District 4 rep on the council. I'm so glad to be here today to serve on the Transportation and Environment Committee. And in particular, as Councilmember Sales just said, as we were doing the proclamation for the Deltas, too much in our country right now, we are seeing the erasure of history. Particularly history, Black history, which is American history. And today we are lifting up Rosa Parks. And we do this twice a year. On December 1st, the day, as Chair Glass said, she refused to move her seat. And we do it this week because tomorrow is Rosa Parks' birthday. And so we remember her twice a year, and it's important that we remember her and everyone who took steps for equity in our community. And as we talked about, as the Chair Glass mentioned, we do have free ridership on our buses, which is terrific. And this council, and I want to say thank you to Director Conklin for all his work in our regional efforts to make sure that we have sustainable funding for our WMATA system, for our metro buses and our metro system, because without a strong transit system, we cannot have transit equity. We cannot ensure that people are able to access and get to where they need to go, to doctor's appointments, to visit relatives, to work and school, and all those things. So thank you to my colleagues on the council and to everyone who's working for transit equity.
And as was noted, this is a partnership, and now I'll invite the Department of Transportation to provide some comments. Director Conklin, start with you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for inviting us to this today. It's really important that we commemorate the role of transit and lifting up our community and providing access to opportunity for all. I want to talk about a couple of things. One, in terms of our operation, we're providing more service, safer service, better quality service, and more people are using it than any time in the last 5 years. And I think that's a hallmark of the investment Montgomery County makes in making sure all of its residents have access to opportunity, those in particular who don't have cars or unable to afford cars and need these services to get to work, to school, and to other things they need. Secondly, I do want to stay on theme and talk about the response during this weather condition. Montgomery County made it a priority to keep this service operational to the maximum extent possible throughout the duration of this storm. We provided more service and better service throughout the duration, both during the storm and after the storm, than any other provider in this region. And some may ask why we did that, because probably not that many people are using it. The reason is because the people who are using it needed to use it. They needed to be somewhere for work. They needed to fulfill their own responsibilities. They needed to get to shelter. In fact, I encountered one of these people on Sunday night. And it was essential that we provide this essential service to the maximum extent we could, given these circumstances. I also want to comment on access to these during snow. We made an extra effort with our highway services crew to clear access to bus stops through the massive glaciers that are in between the bus stop and the road. There was no small feat, and I really want to thank our partners at Metro who reached out to us over the weekend and said, how can we help, and deployed their own crews to come and help clear bus stops in Montgomery County. So there's really a big effort on making sure that this component of the transportation system was as accessible as that people use their own private means to take advantage of. So thank you so much.
Sam Oji, Deputy General Manager, Division of Transit Services. I just want to use this opportunity, based on what you just heard from our director, to recognize all transit employees who have had to come in sometimes 2 in the morning to ensure that we meet services, that we don't miss any rides, considering the people that depend on us to get to from point A to point B. So I'd just like to recognize my colleagues who are the transit employees on this day. Thank you, everybody.
I think that's a great note to end on, making sure that everybody recognizes and appreciates our hardworking staff who work overnight, who work throughout the day in freezing temperatures, and who have had to battle the burns and the glaciers that have been created because of this historic snow and freezing cold situation. So with that, we will read the proclamation. County Council of Montgomery County proclaims proclamation, whereas February 4th is nationally recognized as Transit Equity Day in honor of Rosa Parks, whose courageous and nonviolent refusal to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama, affirmed the fundamental principle that access to public transportation is a civil right. And
whereas the ongoing effort to advance transit equity reflects Montgomery County's commitment to ensuring that its public transit systems are inclusive and designed to meet the needs of all residents, regardless of race, ability, or income. And
whereas the median household income in Montgomery County is over $125,000, while the median income of ride-on customers is estimated to be $45,000, underscoring the importance of equitable transit access for residents with lower incomes. And
whereas Montgomery County advances transit equity through programs that expand access and affordability, including free ride-on bus service, a free connect-a-ride referrals, and subsidized call-and-ride taxi service for seniors with lower incomes and adults with disabilities. You want to bring it home?
Oh, sure. There we go. Whoops. Sorry. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Montgomery County Council Transportation Environment Committee and the entire Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby recognize February 4th as Transit Equity Day, and be it further resolved that the county encourages residents to actively support and utilize public transit as an essential resource for promoting equity in our community. Presented this day, signed by the T&E Committee, Evan Glass, Marilyn Balcom, Kate Stewart.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. Do you want to take, let's switch. Thank you so much to the T&E committee. We will move on to general business. Madam Clerk, would you please chair today's announcements?
Good morning. The council will receive testimony on the FY27 capital budget and FY27 to 32 capital improvements program on February 9th, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. and on February 10th, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. at the council office building. Those wishing to provide testimony must register in advance on the council's website or by calling 240-777-7803. Registration will close this Friday at 12 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no minutes for approval today, so we're going to move on to legislative session. We have agenda item 1, which is introduction, expedited bill 6-26, Fire and Rescue Services, Emergency Medical Services Insurance Reimbursement Program, use of revenues. Lead sponsors are council members Lutke, Katz, and Mink. Co-sponsor, myself, Natalie Fanny Gonzalez. A public hearing is scheduled for February 24th, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. Is there anyone from, yes, Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Expedited Bill 626 is being introduced today with Councilmembers Lukey and Mink and myself, all of us being on the Public Safety Committee, and we are all co-lead sponsors. And first, as we begin, I want to thank Ms. Wellens for working with us to come up with a very good bill. This bill would amend county law to permit an authorized local fire and rescue representative, which we also call LFRDs, to receive emergency medical service transport, which we also call EMSTs, reimbursement funding within certain permitted uses. The EMST reimbursement program allows the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service to bill insurance providers for ambulance transport, and this revenue is used to support operations within the department. Montgomery County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association represent the county's 19 volunteer fire departments, helps to support them, and negotiate on their behalf with the county. The association, along with local fire departments, have been receiving a portion of this revenue. The Office of Inspector General released a report at the end of December opining that the MCV FRA was ineligible for EMST funds because it was not a local fire and rescue department. This bill would amend county law to permit distribution of the EMST funds to the Montgomery County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association as an LFRD to be used for specific purposes. I believe it was always intended that way anyhow, but obviously the Inspector General realized something different. The public hearing, as was mentioned, is scheduled for February 24th at 1:30 p.m. I don't know whether Councilmember Lukey and Councilmember Mink have anything to add, and then also, of course, whether Ms. Wellens had any additional comments. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilmember Don Lukey.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank everyone on the Public Safety Committee for making sure we handled this expeditiously and got this done quickly, and for Council President Natalie Fanny Gonzalez for co-sponsoring. As Chair Katz mentioned, this is being done in response to information we've received from an OIG report in 2025 in the fall, and sometimes things we do in law need clarification. Sometimes things we do need to be spelled out differently so that there's no ambiguity about the intent. And this had been the practice of Montgomery County and had been the way that we have been appropriating funding to our volunteer fire and rescue organizations for some time. And this simply makes it clear that that is to continue our intent, to continue to engage in that, and that this is the mechanism by which it will be done. And so I want to make sure, too, that everyone is very clear. One, how proud we are of our blended fire service here in Montgomery County, that we have a combined volunteer and career system, and that the county firmly supports our volunteer fire and rescue organizations with funding and resources to make sure that our volunteers can continue to provide the same services that our career folks provide as well, because we can't do it all without them. They provide a tremendous amount of resource to the county. They are highly trained, and they may work as career firefighters elsewhere or in other occupations, but their dedication to our community is their top priority. For that, I am incredibly grateful. So we will fix this little issue with the way the code is worded. And I want to thank my committee colleagues, and back to Council President.
Thank you. Councilmember Kate Stewart.
Thank you. I just want to thank the Public Safety Committee for moving so swiftly on this, and Ms. Wellens, and would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you. Councilmember Marilyn Balcom.
Yes, please add me as a co-sponsor, and I really appreciate the leadership of the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you. Councilmember Will Jowondo.
Thank you. Also appreciate the Public Safety Committee. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Lorian Sells.
I too would like to thank the Public Safety Committee and be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Councilmember Andrew Friedson.
Ditto. Thanks to the Public Safety Committee. Please add me as a co-sponsor.
Thank you. Councilmember Shara Evans.
Ditto as well. Add me as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. Council staff, anything else that you would like to add?
Just very quick, Madam President, just wanted to be, and I believe the lead sponsors already adequately explained this, but just wanted to kind of drill down on the terminology, just to clarify, again, the funds under this bill explicitly are allowed to go to the LFRDs. Also, they could go to, or in addition or alternatively, they could go to the LFRD representative, which is MCV FRA, only for the narrow enumerated purposes to support volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you to the lawyer. This bill is introduced.
Madam President, I hit my button, but you didn't see it. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Thank you. Now that's everybody. Yeah, right? Okay, so this bill is introduced. Moving on, item 2 on today's agenda is a work session in action on the resolution to approve the FY 27-32 Capital Improvements Program Spending Affordability Guidelines. Chair Stewart, would you please share the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee's recommendations for the CIP?
Great. Thank you very much, Council President. On January 22nd, the GO Committee met to review the spending affordability guidelines and make a recommendation to the full council. As a reminder, the SAG is based on affordability, and we consider several fiscal and economic factors to determine what is affordable by the county and its residents before adopting the guidelines. The benefits of having the SAG are twofold. First, it enables strong fiscal policies and adherence to them that has enabled the county to maintain our AAA bond rating, even as we see our close neighbors losing theirs. And secondly, by setting the guidelines on affordability before we start focusing on the need, and we know the need is great, it allows us more flexibility with our operating budget as we were reviewing both the operating and our infrastructure budgets. The GO Committee had reviewed the SAG guidelines in the fall, and at that time we did recommend an increase to allow for more borrowing for our general obligation bonds and more borrowing for parks and planning bonds. The council adopted that recommendation in October. Per our county code, the council may revise these guidelines by the first Tuesday in February if economic and fiscal conditions have changed significantly. That is why the GO Committee reviewed the guidelines on January 22nd. Unfortunately, the current economic and fiscal conditions have worsened since the fall. We know the need is great. We acknowledge that in our conversations. However, the SAG is based on affordability, and we have a process by which we will discuss need, and the overall CIP and general obligation bonds are just one way that we pay for our infrastructure projects and not the only way. As we go through the discussion of the full CIP, we are able to exceed the aggregate of the approved CIP SAG with 8 affirmative votes of the council. So with that being said, we had a robust discussion at our GO Committee. I want to thank our staff for all the terrific packet and analysis they put together. The committee's recommendation is that the council confirm what we did in October. Thank you.
Thank you. Is council staff, do they have a presentation, or would you like to go over anything at all that the council chair hasn't mentioned?
Well, the council chair, I think, adequately summarized the issue quite well. The only thing I would add is Each February, the council has the ability, if it chooses, to increase the SAG limits for years 1 and 2 by up to 10%. After that, once SAG is set, then it becomes a CIP issue at the end of the CIP process where the council could exceed SAG by a vote of 8, as Ms. Stewart mentioned. We did go through a presentation with the GO committee. We're happy to do that again now, but also I think perhaps just to answer questions as they come up from the council members.
Perfect. I see Councilmember Bourget-Wando.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to our staff and to the GO committee for their work and the thorough analysis. Thank you to the executive staff as well for their work. I wanted to bring up a couple things related to the SAG and the economic conditions. I believe they have moved and changed in a way that justifies us raising the limit today. And I'll be making a motion to reflect that in just a minute or two. As we know, the key affordability guideline here is the county's goal that annual debt service payments remain at or below 10% of the general fund revenues. That came out of the Great Recession. It's a good common goal for our government, and we have done that. And in fact, at this level of SAG guidelines, if approved, if we stick with what we did in October, we'll actually go well below into the 9% range at a time when we have significant, obviously, need, but also I think the economic conditions have changed. One of the things I wanted to bring up that's different since what we did in October is, one, the state has come back showing a higher capital gains tax receipts, that they're trending higher than previously forecast. This represents a material improvement in fiscal position. Additionally, interest rates are trending downward. We've maintained our AAA bond rating, which is an important thing. It means we borrow at the highest rates, the best rates possible, and that is a good thing as well. Additionally, as you're looking here, I'm not sure what chart's up there, but that might not be the chart I'm looking for, but those are the percentages, though. Thank you. You pulled that up. Yeah, the 10% number.
That's the guideline.
Thank you. Thank you for pulling that up. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to go below 10%. At the county executive's recommended rates for the CIP, we would end up, I think, around 10.3% is the number that I saw. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr.
Over
Mia?
time, by the end of the 6 years.
By the end of the 6 years, which is still, I think, within our general guideline of 10%. At the ENC committee on Friday, and Mr. Levchenko was there, he saw it live, we asked the MCPS to give us, and Montgomery College, to come back with us for non-recommended cuts in the hundreds of millions. In MCPS's case, almost $652 million, to meet the county executive's CIP request. We did the same for Montgomery College. Those are going to be difficult cuts that they're going to have to, reductions that they're going to come back. I mean, a lot of schools aren't going to get the over 40 schools that need HVACs, the ceilings that are falling. They're not going to get, they're going to make tough calls, and that's at the executive's number. The other thing we talked about was that it's a poor fiscal strategy to not fix things now. If we don't start bending the curve, they're going to cost more, and it's going to be worse, and it's going to be painful throughout the process. I think this is one of the many steps we're going to have to take over the course of this budget to address and try to bend that curve. And it will not happen in 1 year, but these guidelines are part of it. We are spending less by far than we were in inflation-adjusted dollars on the capital budget than we were 20 years ago. And I know I say this all the time, you can't buy anything today less than for what you bought it 20 years ago. And in fact, it's going to cost a lot more. And so I think the combination of these factors, the change in tax receipts from the state, interest rates trending down, the fact that it's going to cost more and be worse the longer we wait, and the fact that if we don't match the CIP request from the executive, we're going to have to make even deeper cuts at these levels at the end of the budget process. So for all of these reasons, I'd like to move to amend the spending affordability guidelines before us today as follows. FY27, $330 million, which is the maximum 10% required or allowed, excuse me. FY28, $330 million, the maximum 10% increase permitted, and then match the executive in the 6-year aggregate at $2,190 million to match the county executive's CIP. We're allowed to do that on the back end. That way, it gives us a better chance of still having to make some very difficult decisions in this budget, but it gives us a little better chance to start bending the curve. If we don't provide the flexibility now, we only need 6 votes to do that today. We're going to need 8 votes to do it after today. And I think that's a supermajority required for every capital dollar above $300 million. So I don't think that would be wise. Madam President, I make that motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Will Jawando. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Lorian Sells. I see. Would you like to speak, Councilmember Sells?
Yes, thank you. I too am concerned about the multi-billion-dollar price tag that the Board of Education sent over regarding their CIP. You know, every 6 years we have an opportunity to set the course for how we're going to pay for infrastructure needs throughout the county. And this is one of the ways. No one ever wants to increase the amount of debt that we have, but looking at the numbers and the needs and seeing how inflation has continuously impacted services and projects, I do not want to delay when we have an opportunity now. I'm just thinking about even $390 million worth of cuts to the CIP. And I didn't even get to hear the list of recommended cuts that, you know, our educational systems are going to have to make. This is going to be a tough budget year. We know this, and I believe if we can be more prudent in our spending and take care of the costs that we can address now, especially with our schools. So many of our students are, you know, learning in classrooms. Our educators are learning in classrooms and facilities that are not equipped or conducive to learning. And so I hope we get the support to make this decision, and thank you for the amendment.
Thank you. Councilmember Kristen Mink.
Thank you. I do agree that a level of GO bond issuance more closely aligned to the county executive's recommendation is appropriate and is fiscally responsible at this time. His recommendation does result in a debt service remaining as noted. It's very close to that 10%, and we're estimating 10.3% over that 6 years, which is well below the county's average over the last decade. And if we don't address capital projects now, the operating expenses as well as the construction costs from the deferred maintenance are going to pile up. So our GO bond levels are far lower than they have been historically on an inflation-adjusted basis, and the estimates, the 10.3, et cetera, are based on December numbers when revenue estimates tend to be the most conservative of the budget cycle. So I do believe that this is a reasonable and responsible action to take now. So I appreciate and will support Councilmember Jawando's motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Marilyn Balcom.
Just confirming we're on to discussion. Yeah. So yes. Yeah. So I appreciate the bind that we're in terms of the school's request. And however, I'm not going to support the motion. I read the packet thoroughly. I watched the GO committee meeting, and it was compelling in terms of where we need to be right now in this discussion. And I think that the requirement of having 8 votes to go above this limit here, we should have a significant supermajority to go above what we're going to do. And I think that we have it's not a lot of time, but we're in a volatile economic condition right now, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 months. We'll have a much better picture at a later date. And when we look at the cuts that have to be made, I do have to just mention, and it was mentioned at the GO committee, the county executive presented a budget that was above what we could even possibly do. And I think that that was irresponsible. And so I feel more comfortable sticking with what the GO committee recommended. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we continue, can staff repeat council members Yowanda's motion? So we're on the same page in terms of numbers.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So the first piece of it was increasing years 1 and 2 up to the maximum allowed as part of the February action, which would be from 300 to 330 million in each of those first 2 years. And then for the 6-year total, matching the executive's recommended 6-year total, which would mean filling in those later 4 years, which are not part of the actual limits, but are part of the overall 6-year total, increasing those to get to the 6-year total that the executive recommended, which was 2.19 billion.
Thank you. Just wanted to confirm, so we're on the same page. Next, Councilmember Stewart.
Great, thank you. I just want to thank my colleagues. This is a really important conversation, and thank the ENC committee for starting looking at the CIP on Friday. Just to bring up a couple of other things that we discussed on the committee for the full council. As a reminder, there are 6 indicators that we look at regarding the fiscal and economic outlook. Sometimes 1 or 2 of them may be pointing in the right direction, but there are 6 of them that we take into consideration. Also, I'm going to channel my colleague on the GO committee, Councilmember Katz, who always reminds us that debt service is the first thing we need to pay out of our operating budget. And so as we're looking at increasing our debt service, we just need to remember that that takes money out of our operating budget and ties our hands as we're thinking about the flexibility. So that is one of the reasons why, even though we are facing great need right now, the GO committee recommended we keep these guidelines where they are, and we have a conversation about need when we have both the operating budget in front of us as well as the infrastructure budget, so that we can look at and have flexibility going back and forth. And as a reminder that general obligation bonds are just one way that we fund the CIP. If we find that we're going through the operating budget, that we do want to put more money into the CIP, we can also increase PAYGO as well, and that does not tie our hands decades into the future. I agree, the need is great. We're not going to borrow, as Councilmember Joando said, our way out of this. We need to be looking at how we're funding our infrastructure, and that's one of the reasons why we have our infrastructure working group that is going to be providing the council recommendations on this. So just wanted to bring up those few other points that the GO committee reviewed, and again, really respect and thank my colleagues for this conversation.
Thank you. Councilmember Lorian Sells.
Yes, I didn't thank the GO committee for their calculations, but it's not just about the schools, it's other capital projects that will be impacted. And so that's why I was supportive, but I am looking forward to changes in PAYGO if this doesn't pass. Thank you.
Councilmember Donluki.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't support the motion. I do support the GO committee's unanimous recommendation. And, you know, we've had to have a lot of really tough discussions with MCPS about the schools and about the current state of those buildings. And I recall recently having to explain this whole situation of the funding and the building and the logistics. And I'm going to focus on that word because I explained the borrowing piece and the payback piece, and it's not that if all the money in the world dropped out of the sky today that all those buildings would be fixed. Because if you talk to MCPS about the sheer logistics of it, and you sit with anyone from MCPS talking about their capital budget at any school where the PTA is there and they are trying to ask questions about how is this going to happen and when is it going to happen,
There are so many unanswered questions that have nothing to do with money at all that we need to work out during this budget session, that they need to come to the table with. And I, for one, absolutely want to get these things straightened out. But I heard from their own lips when asked if we could get you all the money right now to fix, for example, Sherwood High School's HVAC system. They said, well, it would take at least 18 months to start it, and then it takes 4 years to do it. Okay? I want that to sink in, because what the public wants and what parents want, and I'm saying that because my kids are in these schools, is for stuff to get done. But I'm not paying for it until you tell me how you're going to get it done, right? And that's the problem. So I concur that there are ways to deal with this down the pike through this budget system, but it doesn't mean we change the GO Committee's recommendation now. We stay with the current spending affordability guidelines. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilmember Evan Glass.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate the GO Committee's work on this, and it is an absolute statement of fact that the money we have allocated for our capital infrastructure needs over the last number of years and decades are not meeting the demands of today. That is absolutely true. And so I appreciate the recognition that we do need to increase those limits. And the question is, how much do we increase those limits by? That is what this conversation is about. And I want to pick up on a comment made by the Council Vice President and ask our staff about the county executive's budget and about the limits that were put in it and the money that was allocated. Did that budget conform with council or county rules and regulations regarding SAG?
Now, the executive's recommendation assumes higher bonds planned for issue than was in CIP SAG, and also higher than what the council could increase as of today as part of its February action. As you heard in the motion, the 6-year total could be accommodated, but not the year 1 and year 2 totals that the executive assumes in his recommended CIP.
So as originally submitted, the county executive's budget proposal would be unable to be enacted and adopted. Is that correct?
The council would have to exceed SAG as part of its final CIP actions with 8 votes.
Great. Thank you. I think that's really important because the best way we solve these problems is by working together and determining how much we need to put in the capital budget and what that offsets mean in the operating budget. And as has been noted, we are going to experience a very tough operating budget. We'll learn the details of that on March 15th, but already in Annapolis, they're dealing with a $1.5 billion budget deficit. And when I was in Annapolis on opening day, I congratulated the speaker, and immediately after I congratulated the speaker, I asked her to please be kind to the counties. We'll see how much Annapolis and our partners there defer some costs to the counties, but that is still unknown at this point in time. And so there are a lot of budgetary unknowns, but it does not disabuse the fact that there are real capital budget problems. And I want to pick up on a point that was just made by Councilmember Luedtke. As I see it, there are 2 issues with the capital budget. One is the loss of purchasing power. Again, that's central to this discussion. But there's a bigger issue at play as well. And that is particularly with our school system. We never received accurate and transparent budgets that reflected the needs, growing needs, real needs of the school system. And these HVAC systems festered and failed for years before they were addressed. That's the problem we're trying to correct. And as we are dealing with this budget and the amount that we are going to take out in general obligating bonds and the interplay that has with our operating budget, we need greater budget transparency within our school system, within county government, so that everybody, particularly the council, understands what the true needs are and we can plan for them. Until we have that true partnership and true understanding, I am supportive of the committee that we do need to increase our CIP to provide some of those needs, but we also need to do a better job of working with MCPS and our other partners to do a better job planning for the future. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Before I turn it to Councilmember Katz, I wonder if Director Silverman has any remarks or any comments in response to what you're hearing.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Rachel Silverman with the Office of Management and Budget. Thank you for having us today. I do just want to reemphasize that although there has been some moderation in terms of the revenue forecast, drilling down again that this is within a 0.5 percentage of that key 10% indicator across the 6-year period. It does represent a substantial improvement over the indicator from our prior positioning, and that if this recommended GO bond level is not approved, in addition to the $390 million, the total adjustment that will be required to the CIP is closer to $460 million. Due to our inflation and set-aside requirements. So I do appreciate the time here, and we're also happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I was quoted earlier about the first thing we pay is the debt. The other thing that I can quote myself on is that when I ran the first time, if I kept saying that if debt was a department in Montgomery County, it is not, but if it were a department in Montgomery County, it would be the 3rd largest department that we have, and it scares me to death. We have, over time, through a lot of hard work, have gotten our debt down, and I guess it was the $280 million figure, if that sticks in my mind. And when we had the discussions in government operations, I thought we should stay there. I thought that we've worked hard to get there, let's stay there. But after good discussions, I thought, well, $300 million becomes the best figure. I have always believed that using debt as a solution it does get you something now, but it means you're going to pay for it much more along the way because of the debt over the years. I know many people who their own personal finances have said, I'll put that on Visa, and of course they pay the minimum, and they're always in trouble. I obviously will not be supporting this motion. I believe that if things change, that to the Vice President's point, that it should take 8 people to decide this, and then those discussions could be had at that time. But at this time, what the government operations, and which I'm on that committee, the government operations came up with, I believe is the right number. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrew Fritzen.
Thank you. First of all, just want to appreciate staff for really impressive work, and also want to thank the committee, my former committee. I was part of this process in the fall, have changed committee assignments. But really appreciate the newest committee member and the unanimous vote of the committee members on this. The fundamental question here is whether or not we are going to increase debt beyond the increase that was already voted on in the fall. There was a modest increase that was thought to be fiscally responsible that I supported strongly and championed at the committee in the fall. The council ultimately agreed upon that modest but fiscally responsible increase to reflect the fiscal conditions and the economic conditions. The question that the committee faced and voted unanimously on, the council now faces, is whether or not the fiscal and economic conditions today are dramatically better than they were in the fall when we made that decision. I don't think there's any person who could seriously and credibly suggest that the economic and fiscal conditions today are dramatically better than they were in the fall when we made this decision as a council. That is the decision before us. The other decisions that we have are what the needs are, which are huge and which are significant and which have been discussed here at length. There are other options that we have, and there have been other options that we have in addition to the debt in order to pay for those needs. One of them was a suggestion that this council made a couple years ago to add additional cash into the capital budget, $80 million in PAYGO. The county executive rejected that and decided to use that money for ongoing expenses in the operating budget, which increased the structural deficit and the fiscal challenges that we currently face. We are going to have to make tough choices moving forward. There is no doubt about that. But the question before us today is whether or not we should further increase our debt at a time when the fiscal and economic conditions are worsening, not improving, and where it wouldn't be credible to suggest that things have gotten dramatically better since the fall. So I will support the committee recommendation, really appreciate the thoughtful work. I recognize fully that we have very difficult and challenging decisions ahead, and we need to make sure that we make those decisions accordingly.
Thank you. Councilmember Shara Evans.
Absolutely. Okay, so yes, as a former school board member, as a committee member on GO and Education and Culture Committee, this is an example of a really tough decision. So I do, serving on, I'll start with GO. Serving on GO, I did raise my hand to support the limit that we put in place. And I still support that limit. As a former school board member, we just sat here last week listening to Dr. Taylor, discuss the CIP needs. The needs are real. And so I do agree with my colleague, Councilmember Jawando, that doing less now will cost more later. But as a council member who just recently was appointed, and I know probably next month I won't be able to say that I'm new too much longer, I do want to be able to go through the entire process because the needs are so great. I want to go through the CIP as well as the operating budget and then come to a decision as to what we should do. And so while I am very passionate and supportive of the school system and I know those needs, me not voting now is not saying no, that I'm not supportive of the CIP. And what I can say as the former president on the school board, I went before our legislators in Annapolis at the time when we were talking about the Build to Learn Act. When I went there to testify, our HVAC needs were really great. So I tried to explain to the legislators as well as to my other colleagues across the county what the needs look like. I thought that Dr. Taylor did a great job at just kind of laying out, this is where we're at. In the past, I'm going to take some of the words that Dr. Williams said last week at the ENC. What I took pride in as a former school board member is that when we came to sit before the council, that we asked for what we needed. HVAC was always included in that, but just like I'm sure how I have to make decisions here, sometimes decisions were made to where we made some adjustments in our budget, particularly when it wasn't fully funded. So I just wanted to make certain that as I sit here as a council member, that as a school board member, that I did speak up and speak out and say that we did our best in bringing forward budgets that we felt like what was representative of what the school system needed at that time. And as a council member, I will I will work and collaborate with the school board to make sure, and the superintendent, to make sure that things are crystal clear. Because I do know that sitting on this side, it's a little bit different to dissect the budget, but I do know that they are good people working really hard to make sure that their efforts are reflected in their budget. But I wanted to go on record to say that I appreciate all the different perspectives that are here on the council. So
me not voting in support of the motion is not me supporting my colleagues, but really taking a deeper dive, as this is my first budget, to see what all the needs are, because they're so pressing. I've been on both the budgets. I get emails. I've sat on Zooms, had in-person meetings, and everybody is coming forward with all their pressing needs, and they all seem important. We want to help all, and so I just want to take the time to really take a deeper dive before I make the decision to go above the limits that the GO committee approved.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to give I'm going to give the last word or two to Councilmember Jawando and then Councilmember Lorian Sells, and then I'm going to ask for a vote.
Thank you, Madam President. This has been a great discussion. I appreciate all my colleagues chiming in on it. And I've been listening intently, and I just wanted to make a couple points this is the beginning of a process, not the end. And I appreciate Councilmember Evans' point there. I'll take that as a half vote, a half victory there, that we might have hope for another day. But one thing I wanted to ask Ms. Silberman and council staff, if they wanted to chime in, was on the fiscal and economic conditions piece. That's been brought up. I made a couple of points of why I think it has changed. Could you speak to anything that you want to raise regarding that? Obviously, the macroeconomics of the Trump administration are horrible, but we're making this on a very specific set of indicators, some of which have changed since we moved in October.
Yes, thank you. So in September, September when GEO first took a look at the indicators, and then the full council affirmed in October, we had only had 6 months of the Trump administration and all of the shifts that came along with that. And in addition to what the indicators looked like at that time, there was sort of a wait and see, let's see how things are unfolding. At the time of the December update, things were modestly moderated in terms of the revenue projection for the general fund, which impacts that 10% indicator. Population had increased, and so the measures that are related to population did actually improve. But the indicator that most people key into here is the 10%, and so that's where most of the focus has been. I think things are not as bad as people had anticipated they might be at this point, and December is a point in time. As you're seeing, these indicators are constantly changing as the Department of Finance takes in more and more information on our revenues. And so, the revenue picture will look still different in March. And it's not totally clear how different they will be at this point, because we're still waiting for information from the state. So I would say that we have a little bit of a clearer picture than we did at this time in September. I think things are looking more stable than they would have at that time, but the economic picture continues to evolve.
I appreciate that, and obviously I know it's an art, not a science here, but even though there are some indicators. The other point I wanted to make is AAA bond rating means we borrow at the best rates possible, correct? Right?
Yes.
And rates that have been trending downwards, hopefully will keep trending downwards. The other thing is the cash versus the pay-go. Cash pay-go versus taking on debt. Again, this is a puzzle that it all fits together. But obviously, if we put more cash in, that comes from people's tax revenue. That's less things we can spend on other programs, food, whatever. Go down the list of needs. And so there is a trade-off there. One of the reasons I think all of us understand we have to balance this. But if we put more cash into the CIP to build things, it means less programmatic at a time when we know the worst impacts of the big ugly bill are kicking in November, and I am not eager to have to make those cuts that we are going to have to look at. And then the other thing is taxes, right? This is a way of increasing our spending capacity without increasing taxes on residents. We still may have to do that, but I think it's going to be very hard to sit here as we go through this process if we're saying we don't want to raise the debt that we're taking on when we borrow at the highest rates and things are more stable than we thought and interest rates are trending down and we're getting more income tax capital gains revenue than we thought we were, and we're against raising taxes to pay for anything. And then that's a tough place to be in at a time when the wealthiest among us are getting huge tax breaks. So it's all connected, and I think this is a key point in time. I know this is the beginning of that conversation, but for our public, I think that's important. And then the final point I want to make, transparency in MCPS is here. This $5 billion request is as transparent as it's ever been. A couple years ago, when I took over as chair of ENC, we started including the actual maintenance charges in the out years of the CIP, which were not being included. They were just doing it. We took that step. I think we've made dramatic progress. And some might argue it's too transparent because now we're seeing what the need is. And everyone involved, previous councils, previous school boards, previous superintendents, enabled where we are today. Because it's like a child that doesn't want to come to their parents because they know the PlayStation costs too much. So they don't ask for the PlayStation. And so they just ask for something that's a lot cheaper. And everyone played that game for a long time. And thank goodness we're not playing that game anymore. We have to pay for what we need, and that's kind of where we are. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Can council staff please display table 3? And let me just remind people there are less revenues available to cover debt service today. That's the situation that we're facing. As you do that, I'm going to ask Council Member Loyan Sells to make her comment, and I really want to have a vote very soon. Just keep that in mind.
Just very briefly, I wanted to second Council Member Jawando's amendment just to have the conversation. I'm glad we had the conversation. It doesn't look like it's going to pass, and so I'm looking forward to more discussion around this and ensuring we focus on our capital needs now. We're going to have a lot of decisions, difficult decisions to make in the coming months, and so thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It's April page 6, by the way. Councilmember Gates Stewart.
Great. I don't want to prolong this. I know we have other things to do, but I did want to say that as we're looking at things like capital gains tax that has been put on the table, that's potentially one-time money that we're seeing, and that is exactly why we increase PAYGO and have those conversations. And so whether or not we're going to raise taxes or not what we're debating today. That will come in the spring when we're looking at need, and is exactly the reason why the Government Operations Committee is recommending we stay at the current guidelines, because we have not seen a marked increase in a positive direction. We can say they stayed the same. I would say they've worsened, but we could at least say they stayed the same. But what is in our county code is if we're going to change our spending affordability guidelines, we should actually be seeing a change in a good direction, and that is not what's being picked up right now. We will continue these conversations of taxes, PAYGO, how we all do this in the spring. So I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. In case it's helpful to anybody, I am not willing to increase taxes this year either. So letting you know. Last word, please, Council Member Evan Glass.
Important conversation. Thank you, Madam President, for indulging all of us. Two points. One, I appreciate the committee chair for her comments just now laying out the next few months. I think it is incredibly important before we vote on this amendment and then vote on the proposal to once again very definitively state the increased levels that the GO committee is recommending, right? Let it not get lost on anybody that we are increasing our bonding capacity to meet the needs. And secondly, I just want to say thank you to Councilmember Evans. I think your perspective from all of the positions you have held brings the most unique perspective to this discussion. And in balancing the needs of the school system, of our taxpayers, of our council, I agree with you and everything that you said. And this conversation will continue. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Evan Glass. And a reminder, the GO Committee confirms the Council approves SAC from October 7, 2025. With that, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor of the motion made by Councilmember Jawando, please raise your hand. We have 1, 2, 3. Those against, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The motion fails. Is there anything else from council staff before we move on?
Sure. I just wanted to add the discussion has been on geo bonds. We do have parking planning bonds also as part of the SAG. Those were increased in October, and the the executive is matching what the council's actions were in October, so there's no issue at play with those.
With that, we have a recommendation from the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee. Those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Moving on, we have next for the council's consideration is the consent calendar. Before we take action on the consent calendar, I would like to speak about item C, action on a resolution to endorse the DMV moves plan for transit in the National Capital Region. As you all know, we had a presentation from COG about 3 weeks ago, I want to say, recently. And they have a resolution. We shared the resolution with all of you, as well as the chair of Environment and Transportation in the Maryland General Assembly, State Delegate Corman, and also with the Department of Transportation. And I think at the end of the day, it's safely to say, because we have this resolution, that we do want to create a sustainable funding model and unified vision for the region's transit network, and that actually is connected to economic development too. And so I just wanted to highlight that as an important step forward. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Moved by Council Vice President Balcon, second by Council Member Don Lukey. Those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes. Yes, Council Vice President, go ahead.
So I just wanted to recognize Glenn Orlin today. We just voted him on the Rustic Roads Advisory Committee, and I know that he'll do a great job. Thank you.
You're going to have so much fun. Thank you for your work. Yes. The next item today is a proposed closed session. The council intends to meet in closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of an appointee, employee, or official over whom it has jurisdiction under Section 3-305B1 of the General Provisions article of the Maryland Code. The topic is the interview of applicants for a position at the Office of Zoning and Administrative Hearing over whom the council has jurisdiction. Is there a motion to meet in closed session?
So, second.
Moved by Council Member Yowanda, second by Council Member Don Lukey. Those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. The council would meet in closed session in the council conference room on the third floor right now, and the council will return to our open session at 11:30 a.m. to celebrate Black History Month. We'll be back.
Welcome to Council in Brief. I'm your host, Mershai Sahalu. Council President Natalie Fani Gonzalez is leading legislation that would update how the county tracks the impact of its minimum wage law. Bill 1-26 would remove the requirement that the Office of Legislative Oversight provide an annual January report on the county minimum wage.
Good afternoon, everybody. What an exciting day. My name is Natalie Fani Gonzalez. I'm the council president, and I want to welcome you to celebrate Black History Month. Thank you to each one of you for being here today. There you go. That's the spirit right there in the back. The gentleman with a black suit. Thank you. So welcome back to the February 3rd, 2026 council meeting. The next item on the agenda is our annual Black History Month commemoration, which I'm honored to host alongside council members Wojo Wando, Lori Ann Sales, and Shevra Evans, and the full council. Let me begin by thanking all our special guests for joining us today, and I'm going to announce some of the few folks that we have here. I'm not going to mention every single person, but I'm going to just mention a few, so please bear with me. We have former county executive Ike, well, he was a council member, yeah. Ike Leggett, and his wife, Catherine Leggett, Judge Carla Smith, Mr. Jason Green, and the Commission on Remembrance and Reconciliation, the Mayor of Rockville, Monique Ashton, Ms. Brenda Wolf, Vice President of NCPS Board of Education, Ms. Carla Silvestre, board member of NCPS. Mrs. Laura Stewart is also here from MCPS Board of Education. Ms. Julie Jen, board member, is also here. Former council member, Mr. Craig Rice. I saw him somewhere. There he is. Dr. James Bridgers is here from DHHS. Dr. Keisha Davis is also here in the house. Gettysburg City Council member Lisa Henderson is here. Ms. Karen Hendricks will be attending on behalf of Senator Chris Van Hollen. There you go, I see you in the back. Thank you, Karen, for being here. Mr. Artie Harris, chair of the Montgomery County Planning Board. Yeah, there you go. Ms. Susan Kennedy, she's coming here on behalf of Council member Congressman April McLean Delaney, and I see Catherine over there from Congressman Jamie Raskin, our rock star, and I see Ms. Sandra and Carl Prather from the Prathertown Community Development Corporation. They're here. There you are, right in front of me. So thank you so much to each one of you for being here, and to everybody else who I did not mention, but you know the love is here for you. This year's theme is a century of Black history commemorations, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the official establishment of Black History Month and its impact locally, nationally, and globally. For the 100th anniversary, the founders of the Black History Month call on all of us to explore the impact and meaning of Black history and how it helped transform the status of Black Americans throughout the modern world. As our nation witnesses political violence and attacks on immigrant communities and communities of color, we're all here together, I'm proud to live in a county where diversity is celebrated, representation matters, and history is valued. In Montgomery County, we recognize that Black history is American history, and we will not let it be erased or denied. As we honor the official centennial of Black History Month, it's important to note that this year also marks the 250th anniversaries of both the United States and Montgomery County. Long before national observances, Black history was documented preserved, and passed down from generation to generation through activists, faith leaders, educators, and families. Regardless of the current administration's efforts to dismantle and erase parts of our history, we will continue to ensure accurate history is a part of everyday learning, not just in the month of February, but year-round. We must continue to learn from our past in order to build a better future for each one of us and our future families. Today, I'm excited to honor 3 incredible change makers in our community who have made history and whose legacies have been shaped by history, both lived and learned. This year's commemoration spotlights former County Executive Ike Leggett, Administrative Judge for the Circuit Court of Montgomery County Carla Smith, and Jason Green, Chair of the Commission of Remembrance and Reconciliation. These 3 leaders have not only broken through barriers, but have also opened doors to ensure that the next generation will follow in their footsteps. Before I turn it over to my colleagues, let me recognize Jordan Lindsay and Joe Thompson, who have put together a wonderful video for us. I have watched it, it's really good, and recognize today's commemoration. Now I'll turn it over to Councilmember Yawondo, then Councilmember Sales, and we will end with Councilmember Evans before we read the proclamation. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, everyone. Happy Black History Month. It's an honor to be with you as we continue a proud tradition in celebrating Black History Month here in Montgomery County. And it's an auspicious time, 250 years after the founding of both the county and the country, and 100 years after the founding of Black History Month itself by Carter G. Woodson. We're living through a moment, though, of profound doublespeak. We're going to watch many federal and other officials issue proclamations recognizing Black History Month this month, while simultaneously working to dismantle every program designed to address the structural inequities that Black history teaches us about. They'll celebrate Black achievement in speeches while firing thousands of federal workers, many of whom are Black. They will invoke unity while tearing apart Black and brown families through mass deportation and cruelty. This is not, I don't have to tell this room, honoring Black history. It's using Black history as a prop while undermining its lessons. And I want to tell you just one attempt that they actually have done it, but we're going to fight it, of erasing Black history itself. I want to tell you briefly the story of Ona Judge. She was born into slavery at Mount Vernon and was chosen as the personal maid of Martha Washington, President George Washington's wife. On May 21st, 1796, while the Washingtons were eating dinner, she fled their Philadelphia residence, which at the time was the capital of the nation. She sailed to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. There was a Philadelphia law that outlawed slavery at that time, and you could only have someone living with you for 6 months, and then they had to be released. So what the Washingtons did is they rotated their slaves from Mount Vernon into Philadelphia on a 6 months, just below a 6 month cycle, so that they could keep folks enslaved in their residence in Washington. When she feared being transferred to Eliza Park Curtis Law, who was the granddaughter of Martha Washington, who had a reputation for cruelty, she left. President Washington himself attempted to use his influence to return her, but she remained in New Hampshire, married, and had children. Her story is the only first-person account of a fugitive that was enslaved by the Washingtons, our first president. Just last month, the National Park Service, at the direction of President Trump's executive order, removed the plaques of a Philadelphia walking tour telling Ona Judge's story, called The Black Journey. Fortunately and unfortunately, my children were on a walking tour just 1 week before the plaques were removed. My daughter, who was so inspired, is reading the book of Ona Judge now because she learned about it on that tour. So let me be very clear. There's no executive order. There's no federal directive. There's no erasure that we're going to allow here in Montgomery County. We are not going to let it happen. Black history is American history, and Montgomery County will always be a place where it's honored, taught, and protected. And this year, as you heard from the council president, we're recognizing local leaders and places that have shaped Black history in our county over the past century. And what an amazing group we have to honor. Former County Executive Ike Leggett, a mentor to so many, including myself, the first African American to hold that office and the first African American to hold a county council seat. A trailblazer who showed what leadership in Montgomery County can and should reflect. Judge Carla Smith, whose career represents the ongoing pursuit of justice and fairness in our legal system. And Jason Green, the chair of the Montgomery County Commission on Reconciliation and Remembrance. I was proud to have led that effort to establish, co-led that effort to establish that commission with Councilmember Rice, who's in the audience, and Councilmember Reamer, because I believe we cannot build a more equitable future if we're unwilling to confront our past. So today we celebrate, we remember, but most importantly, we recommit to the work ahead, because progress is not given, it is won and hard fought. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Council President Natalie Fani Gonzalez, and to my colleagues and everyone who has joined us here today. Thank you to my good friend, I don't know if he was recognized, friend to many, Joseph Eong, or as I like to affectionately call him, Chief, community liaison to our friend representing Congressman Raskin's office. As we celebrate the 100th anniversary of Black History Month with the national theme, A Century of Black History commemorations, reminding us to recognize the profound contributions that Black individuals have made, fostering pride and appreciation for their lasting impact. I am so inspired by the powerful Black leaders, advocates, and elected officials throughout Maryland who serve their communities with unwavering commitment. Their leadership underscores the fact that Black history is not just a reflection of the past, it is a living narrative that shapes our future. Just days ago, we saw two Black journalists, Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, arrested and charged with federal civil rights crimes for doing their jobs while covering an anti-ICE protest in Minnesota. As we reflect on American history, the 250th anniversary this summer, we must confront the ongoing challenges faced by Black communities in an environment where our lives are devalued, faced with erasure, and still find the will to go on. Honoring Black history requires us to protect our progress actively and to push back against any setbacks, demanding a shared commitment to justice and equity. We witness Black Americans being targeted for speaking the truth and advocating for justice. Their resilience compels us to continue our efforts and stand united for change. In the face of intimidation and attempts to erase our narratives, I'm committed to eliminating racial disparities in health and socioeconomic outcomes. I will continue advocating strongly for our Black residents who too often bear the weight of systemic inequities. As the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, I will ensure that the voices of our most vulnerable residents are not overlooked in our policy decisions. Our upcoming budget must reflect our values through equitable investments in the areas where they are most needed. One of my first committee sessions will focus on addressing the racial disparities in maternal and infant health because outcomes, not intentions, must measure equity. I take pride in being the first Black woman and the first person of Jamaican heritage elected as a councilwoman at large in Montgomery County, and I'm determined that I will not be the last. I stand in the footprints of those who came before me, like those we are honoring today. Former County Executive Ike Leggett, Judge Carla Smith, and as I like to call him, Reverend Green 2.0. Is Jason here yet? Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, he's here in spirit. Every day I strive to honor those who came before me by leveraging my position to dismantle systemic barriers and ensure that those like my daughter who come after me may live in a more just and equitable world. As we commemorate this historic centennial, let us recommit to action, accountability, and progress. From attending local forums, supporting Black-led organizations and businesses, and advocating for policies that address disparities, our collective effort is essential for meaningful change, and I look forward to doing that work alongside each of you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Black History Month. I'll first start off by saying that I'm going to associate myself with the comments of my colleagues. I really appreciate them. And I'm just going to start off with a scripture. Psalms 30, verse 5. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. And I started off with the scripture because when I think of Black History Month, I think of joy and I think of celebrating. I know that what has moved Black families forward for generations has been our faith. Black history, to me, is faith in action. Justice, faith in justice, faith in our community, and just faith in making certain that we can see a better tomorrow. A lot of things have been going on here in our country, and my colleagues have, notated that. We are really living in uncertain times, but what I know is that in uncertain times, we persevere and we push forward. We do not let setbacks hold us back. We dig in deep and we move forward. So I just want to say, I want to honor everyone that has come before me. When I sit in this room, I see Mr. Williams out there in the audience, right? I'm thinking about him. I'm thinking about my colleague, Dr. Daka, who's no longer here, former school board member. I think about Odessa Shannon, who was a former school board member as well. And I also think about Ruby Rubens. There are so many people out in the audience that I respect. I see Mr. Stowe, and for the fear of missing someone, I see Mr. Ricks. I'm going to stop naming people, but I am going to say that I stand on the shoulders of giants, and I don't want to belabor because we're going to see a video, and I'm speaking in that video. But what I do know is that I live and breathe Black history every single day. And our story continues to be written. So just thank you all for showing up today, being present and celebrating a month that for me, I celebrate every single day, but a month that we shine the light on the many that have come before us and done great works. And we will continue to do those works and show that spirit to our future generation, which is our students. And so with that, I will turn it back over to President Fanny Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. Beautiful remarks. Besides beautiful remarks, powerful remarks by my colleagues. It's such a great honor to stand here with each one of you because we are a reflection of Montgomery County and we're going to continue to fight for our values. With that, I'm going to ask the council team to please display the video. Thank you.
Happy Black History Month, Montgomery County. The national theme for 2026 is a century of Black history commemorations, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the official establishment of Black History Month and its impacts, because Black history is American history. It's clear that throughout Montgomery County's history, a long list of Black Americans have made significant strides, trailblazing and laying the foundation for future generations to come. Of course, that list includes the Honorable Isaiah Ike Leggett.
My early life was such a struggle. I grew up with one of 13 kids in abject poverty in Louisiana. But it's a sense of how I could help others. Because there are an awful lot of kids out there who are like Ike Leggett or others who, if they get that certain break or opportunity, they can be successful.
Leggett became the first African American elected to the Montgomery County Council. Leggett was also elected as county executive in 2006, the first African American to hold that office, among many other notable accomplishments.
I was really concerned about the county's finances, even when I was a council member. And so when we look at the parameters that guide us in terms of our spending, affordability rules and so forth, you'll see that I had a great role in that. You look at the Inspector General. That was my bill to provide the Inspector General in Montgomery County to get greater accountability for that. If you look at the smoking ban that we had, at that time, Montgomery County was one of the first jurisdictions in the entire country to outlaw smoking in bars and restaurants and public places. But the most significant one, I think, was accountability and financial management of the county. And that was a dominant factor, I think, in most of my life in public service.
From humble beginnings to a lifetime of service and commitment to his family, country, and community, leaving a long-lasting legacy.
But the thing that I liked most about my service was helping people who really needed help. If there was a concern, I was going to listen to it.
All rise.
Continuing that legacy is Judge Carla Smith, the first African-American woman on the Montgomery County District Court.
One of the reasons I put in to become a judge was because if you looked at our bench, we really didn't have a lot of Black folks who were judges on the bench. On the third floor of the circuit court, we have a wall of photos of all the prior judges. And every Friday I would walk past that wall. I started looking at the wall saying, that wall does not represent our county. And I thought, well, I'm qualified. I have lots of trial experience, went to a top law school. I've done a lot of things in my career I'm going to put in. And so that's kind of how it started.
But her accomplishments don't stop there. Smith was recently named the new administrative judge for the Circuit Court of Montgomery County.
I can recall one of my first dockets in the district court. All rise, walking into the courtroom and seeing Black people who were sitting in the courtroom and their faces light up. It's so important for people to see people who look like them. That helps shape how people feel about our justice system. It's very exciting. It is daunting, but I think I'm up for the job.
To support the goal of bringing the county together to promote a better understanding of our history, there's the Commission on Remembrance and Reconciliation.
The commission was founded in 2019 by a proclamation from council members Reamer, Rice, and Jawando, and inspired by the work that Brian Stevenson has been doing in Montgomery, Alabama. He's been inspiring community actions all over the country to really recapture a period of American history, this Reconstruction era, where unfortunately racial terror lynchings occurred across the country, including right here in Montgomery County.
The Commission on Reconciliation and Remembrance is important for at least two reasons. One, that we remember what happened here, that we remember John Diggs Dorsey, Sidney Randolph, and George Peck. Two of them were dragged out of this building and lynched nearby while mobs cheered and watched. And it was state-supported terror.
The commission has already established 3 markers.
We engaged in acts of commemoration, where we collected soil samples in the areas across the county where those 3 men were lynched. We also have established and erected markers, 2 here in Rockville and 1 in Poolesville for the 3 men that saw this terrible fate. We believe that this winding path towards reconciliation is long, but it has to begin with the ideas of truth. And so we're engaged in acts of community building so people can understand how these events took place, that they took place, and again, begin this process of reconciliation.
And there's other historical sites throughout Montgomery County, including markers highlighting trailblazing fair housing efforts for Black residents thanks to Montgomery planning.
This is part of our history, and it's important that we commemorate it and learn from it and remember it.
Happy Black History Month, Montgomery County. May this be a reminder of why it's so important to honor and celebrate its true meaning.
Black history is part of American history.
And as we say, Black history is American history.
The African American story is quintessentially the American story.
Black excellence is not just the exception, but it is the expectation.
Black history is American history because many of the systems that you see, our ancestors built them.
Everyone who's American should know Black history. If you don't know Black history, you don't know American history.
That was very exciting. Thank you so much to the amazing team that works here in the County Council and for putting this beautiful video representing our community. With that, we're going to start to read the proclamation. So I'll begin, and then after that, we're going to take a photo, and then the fun part, the food. So I'll start. So the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland proclamation, whereas February is National Black History Month, which recognizes and honors contributions that African Americans have made to this country, as well as the events and history of the African American diaspora. And
whereas January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, setting the United States of America on a path to end slavery, and 1 century later, in 1963, more than 200,000 Americans gathered for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, calling for African American civil and economic rights. And
whereas Black History Month had its beginnings in the United States in 1926, when Black educator and historian Carter G. Woodson moved to officially recognize the achievements and contributions of African Americans to our nation's history and identity. And
whereas enslaved Africans were brought to this country and endured brutal and inhumane conditions, and those who survived from generations of people became educators, doctors, scientists, lawyers, policymakers, and world changers. And
whereas Maryland is home to African American heroes like Frederick Douglass, Josiah Henson, Harriet Tubman, Thurgood Marshall, Pauli Murray, Lily Mae Carroll Jackson, and Eubie Blake, who paved the way for the young activists of today who continue to fight for racial equity, freedom, and social justice. And
whereas Black Americans have contributed significantly to the growth and development of our nation and Montgomery County through distinguished leadership in every single field of human endeavor. And
whereas this year's National Black History Month theme is A Century of Black History Commemorations, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the official establishment of Black History Month and its impact locally, nationally, and globally. And
whereas for the 100th anniversary, the founders of Black History Month urge us to explore the impact and meaning of Black history and how it helped transform the status of Black Americans throughout the modern world. And
whereas this year, when we are also commemorating the 250th anniversary of United States independence, it is important to tell not only an inclusive history, but an accurate one that highlights the positive contributions of African Americans have made to this nation. And
whereas throughout Montgomery County's history, a long list of African Americans have made significant strides, trailblazing and laying the foundation for future generations. And
whereas this month we celebrate all the major contributions that African American trailblazers have made throughout the past century and acknowledge how far we've come as a country thanks to their efforts, setting the bar even higher for generations to come.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby celebrates and proclaims February as Black History Month. It's presented today by Council President Natalie Fanny Gonzalez, Council Members Shebra Evans, Will Wondo, Lori Ann Sales, and the entire County Council. Thank you so much for being here. With that, we're going to do something very fun. So this year, we have had, I think we went over the amount of people who we usually get, which is a great sign in my view. So when I was told, Natalie, you already capped the maximum of people who can come here. And I said to them, well, if that's the case, let's bring another chair and let's find more food, but we're not gonna say no to anybody. So please, we're gonna mingle very closely together. Come forward so we can take a photo, and I'm gonna ask the three recipients who were shown on the video, Mr. Ike Leggett, Judge Carla Smith, and I know Mr. Jason Green couldn't make it today, but we have a representative on his behalf, Ms. Tamara Williams, who's here from the Commission of Remembrance and Reconciliation. Please come forward along everybody else so we can take a picture right here. And after that, we're gonna go down to the second floor for our lunch. Good? No, they're moving forward. That's what I was told, but that's a lot. Can you please come this way?
Everyone who wants to be in the photograph, please make your way to the front. Everyone, if we can have folks move in on the corners as best as possible.
All right, everyone, please pay attention. We're gonna try to take a photo. Where's Sky? We're gonna look at Sky. Raise your hand. All right, go ahead. If everyone who's taking a photo with a cell phone, if you can please sit down so Sky can take the photo. Thank you. The County Council is on recess until 1:30 p.m. Thank you.